just about any and everything you can think of, I messed up. I've had 2 patellar dislocations, tearing in my quad, tearing in my hamstring, vertebral fractures, sprained ankles. Soccer was not kind to my body. Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
What was like the most common reoccurring injury?
I would say low back. I have my 3 key pillars.
So what I got from that was step number 1, if you're experiencing back pain or if you have a desk job, to either prevent or to aid in your low back pain, one of the most important things is welcome back to the Taught Not Told podcast. Today, we're doing something a little bit different. This is something I've always wanted to do, never had the opportunity, but today is finally the day where we're bringing on our first guest, our first interviewee to the Taught Not Told podcast. And today, I'm so excited to introduce to you my great friend, Jake Jeries.
What's going on, guys?
Thanks for coming on today, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
So Jake is part of the Taught Not Told team. We've been working together we just hit about 2 years. Our 2-year anniversary just passed, right?
Yeah, coming on 2. Yeah,
that's
it's been 2
awesome.
years.
That's awesome, man. And so ultimately, part of the online coaching process is after the clients go through me, I figure out who they are best fit for, whether it's me, whether it's Jake or Coach Nate, who you guys will meet in the near future. But ultimately, Jake has been one of the coaches that I've seen progress faster than probably any coach I've worked with. I've worked with probably about 10 coaches over the last 6 years. And ultimately, Jake's been able to progress, and also his background has allowed him to succeed as a coach in terms of giving his clients great results from many different realms, and not only just strength and building muscle, losing body fat, but also rehabbing injuries. And so we're going to dive in today to some of his experiences, some of his knowledge, and some of the things that make Jake who he is today. So Jake, I just want to start off maybe just like a spark noted version, but ultimately, like what took you from where you are today, what got you into fitness, and then what ultimately led you to become a coach?
Yeah. All right. So first off, thank you so much for having me on the Be Taught Not Told podcast.
Dude, thank you.
It is an honor to be the first guest of I would presume to be many in the future.
Absolutely.
So for me, my fitness journey began, I guess to take it way back to when I used to play soccer, and that's kind of how, we played soccer under the same clubs and at the same high school. Yep. So that's where I began my athletic journey, right? As far as resistance training goes, I actually started resistance training probably around 13 or 14 years old, just messing around with weights at the gym in my house. And I was definitely doing things incorrectly.
That's how we all learn, man.
Yeah.
Trust me, when I started, I remember so many times. I remember running into my favorite thing, man, when I was first starting out was I'd go to the biggest, buffest, most jacked dude in the gym who everyone was intimidated by. I was like just kind of like that childlike curiosity. I'd go up to that guy and be like, hey man, could you help move my form on this? Yeah. And they would always give me that bodybuilder, half rep technique, but it was cool learning from people like that. But I feel you, man, my form was, if I go look back at some photos and videos, it's embarrassing,
atrocious,
even when I started training people, man, it was it's different. But,
started off weightlifting at home, just trying to build a little bit more muscle, and definitely doing things incorrectly. Went through the whole 9 yards of messing up a lot of different joints, even so far as having vertebral fractures in my spine from what I would presume to be deadlifting incorrectly.
Dude, so that was your mid back, lower back?
Lower back. And I was young. I was 15 or 16 years old dealing with vertebral fractures in my spine. And that's when I started to realize, the resistance training can be a dangerous game if you're doing it incorrectly.
Absolutely.
And I think that kind of set me on the journey of trying to figure out how to do things correctly, which took a long time. And even to this day, I'm still learning how to do things correctly,
Absolutely.
And so, I had to learn things the hard way, which is what's cool about this job is that we have the ability to help people not have to go through that, and they can learn things correctly from the start of their resistance training journey as opposed to having to go through incorrectly and possibly 100%. Get hurt,
that's what TNT stands for, is to teach people, man. And that's ultimately what led us here, is so that people can learn the right way from the get-go. So ultimately, after you went through some injuries, you started working out in your home. I know you had a great soccer sport background. So after that, after going through like some of the beginning early stages of your injuries, like
Hmm.
where did you, what did you play? You played sports in high school, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
soccer.
Soccer all
Yeah,
four
just
years?
soccer all 4 years. Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
And then going into graduation, like when you graduated high school, what was the next step for you?
So after I got out of high school, I enrolled at community college
Okay.
near home. So I was going through doing my first 2 years of college there, my
Okay.
undergrad, and I had my dad came home one day from physical therapy, and at the place he was going to, they desperately needed some hires. You know, they were short staffed on aides, and so my dad comes home. He's like, you're into working out, like you're into fitness, like you should go apply at the physical therapy office. And I was like, but I don't know anything pertaining to physical therapy. I barely have resistance training under my background. I had like maybe like 3 or 4 years of lifting incorrectly.
Yeah.
Right. So I go in and I landed the job at what was that? It's probably 18 years old, 19 years old. And I started working in the physical therapy office. And so that was like the next
That's amazing.
progression. Yeah.
So my quick question for you is like, what, it sounds like you started lifting really young.
Yeah.
And it sounds like, you had a natural affinity for it and clearly have some natural genetics for muscle building.
Yeah.
But when it comes to actually starting that, like I feel like a lot of people don't find fitness or health or later in life they find it because they have to or because they feel insecure about their like self-image, for example. But like my question is like, how did you find fitness so young, or what
Yeah.
what drove you towards that? What made you decide like, oh, I'm gonna go pick up stuff and put it back down?
Yeah. So going through and playing soccer,
Mm-hmm.
um, I was always the guy who was never the most talented,
Mm.
but I was always the hardest worker. And I think any of my teammates to this day, like if I called them up and be like, hey, you know, who was the one working
Yeah.
around the clock? They would be like,
What am I
you.
remembered for?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And so, I mean, I was always first one in, last one out. If I wasn't injured, I was first one in, last one out, kind of like that Mamba mentality. And I still have that to this day. I still like to be the first one in. I still like to be the last one out. And I feel like that not being talented at anything athletic wise, like I was good, but I wasn't naturally gifted, made me work harder.
100%.
And so the resistance training was like a branch off that I could become stronger, like a branch
Mm-hmm.
off of soccer that would tie back into my performance. So that's why I fell in love with it. And then it just kind of went its own separate way after I finished playing soccer.
I love that. I
Yeah.
love that. That's awesome, man. And man, that's crazy. Actually, I didn't know that about you. And I actually relate to you a ton because like when I first stepped on the soccer field, my little brother was like the most gifted.
Yeah, he's super.
Dylan's just gifted when it comes to a soccer ball. And so like when I saw him starting to play, he went from like never playing soccer to like the captain,
Yeah.
like lead scorer. And
To
I was
the
like,
All-American on our team.
I know, that's
Yeah.
so cool. I was like, I wanna play soccer. And like when he was 2 or 3 grades, but he was like 4 or 5 grades. He's 3.5 years younger than me. And I remember like his first team he joined, I was like, it's like after my knee injury, I was
Yeah.
like, I'll put some cleats on and try. And like these little kids were schooling me, but I was like, man, that kind of makes me want to work harder for it.
Exactly.
And so that was very similar, man. I wanted to be able to work harder than everyone because I was far less skilled than everyone else. So
Yeah.
very relatable. So that's awesome. So that drove you into using lifting as a catalyst
Yep.
for better performance as a soccer
Yep.
player.
Hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. And so my perspective was always like, you know what? I might not be the most gifted, but I am going to be the hardest working.
I love that.
And then if I fall short at the end of the day, I gave it as much effort as I could give, and then you just
100%.
continue to move on.
So what made you stop playing soccer after high school? Why didn't you go
I
any
was
further?
dealing with a lot of injuries.
Okay.
A lot of injuries from soccer.
Can you elaborate?
Just about any and everything you can think of, I messed up. Like knees, I've had 2 patellar dislocations, which is
Jeez.
I'm actually dealing with rehabbing one right now from a fight, which I'm,
We'll dive into that a
we'll
little
dive
bit.
into that. But I've had 2 patellar dislocations. I've had tearing in my quad. I've had tearing in my hamstring,
Cringy.
vertebral fractures, sprained ankles. It's just soccer was not kind to my body. Yeah.
We need to put like hashtag injury prone on your arm or something.
Yeah. No, I was definitely injury prone like coming up, and I think there's a lot of factors that go into that.
Yeah.
But
Which is crazy because it almost sounds like that PT job was almost like a calling.
Yeah. So the way that I perceive it to be is that I had to go through all these injuries so that I could learn from each and every single one of them. And it's funny because most of the injuries that people have come to me with through this job that we do, I have already rehabbed for myself and I have experience with. So that's why, a lot of my work up to this point has been rehabbing people. I've dealt with low back, knees, shoulders, elbows, ankles, like all of it. And I have experience with all of it just from the injury history of myself,
And that's one of the best things about the coaching experience and the journey is like, I feel like most coaches that get into the space, at least the good ones that I know and that I've worked with, all come from a place of like, I want to prevent you from going through the same shitty, horrible, taunting experience I had to go through. So this is great and unique. And like Jake's my go-to. Like every time I get a client, or TNT as a whole gets a client, is like when we have someone that has lagging or nagging injuries or knee pain, hip pain, ankle pain, back pain, something that's kind of bothering them. It's like the most common stuff we see. And when we run across those people, it's like, okay, Jake's our go-to guy. So I love having you as someone on the team, especially for that reason, because we have more value to add to the universe, to add to our clients. So that's amazing, man. So just to kind of recap, we went from high school, a little bit before that you started lifting. High school, you started the PT. So how long did you do the PT job for? Was that something you did for a long time? Was it just a short little bit?
Yeah, so shout out to Body Mechanics in Simi Valley.
There we go.
That 2 years-ish that I spent there during my undergrad was one of the most transformative experiences I've ever had in life. I will forever be grateful for the time spent in that office and the knowledge that I was able to obtain and bring into my career with me. I think, being there for as long as I was there for almost 2 years, right? Mm-hmm. And I worked with so many different people, and there were so many different like injuries that would come across, or like, you had people coming in, like after car accidents, and they were just debilitated, and you could just see it.
That's
like
crazy.
They were just crushed, like their whole life, everything that they've ever known is, like completely altered just from the accident.
One freak accident.
Something. Yeah.
So that being said, like what was like the most common reoccurring injury? Was it like a shoulder? Was it back? Or like, cause I know PT can be for like acute stuff in terms of like
so many different situations and so many different cases.
Did you see one that you're like, man, I keep seeing this over and over?
And it was definitely low back, shoulders and knees. Those were like the most common.
Low back, shoulders, and knees.
I would say low back. I would say first and foremost
number
low back. And there was a common theme across the board with low back patients was sedentary lifestyle and being seated too much.
Okay, this is fun. We can kind of let's dive into that a little bit more, because I feel like we'll get into this more as we get into like your training and like where you are now. But I think while we're here talking about low back and sedentary lifestyle, because I'm sure most of the people that we know, most of the people that will probably watch this, as you know, the podcast is a little bit newer, so hopefully we get a couple decent views, but ultimately, more importantly, I hope that at least one person watching this gets some value, and I feel like this could be for that person. And so when it comes to sitting a lot and having this low back pain, which again is super common, what kind of approach would you take then and or now to aid in that low back pain, or even prevent it from coming in the first place?
There's so many different things, and there's so many things that
give me like 1 to
Yeah,
3 key
I have my like
elements.
three. I have my three key pillars,
Let's
right?
go. Let's go.
So the first thing I always tell people when they come in and they have low back pain, I'm like, stop sitting so much. Like it's gonna compress your spine.
But I can't because of my job.
Yeah, you got to get up and move around.
Okay.
You got to take longer trips to the bathroom. You got to get up more frequently, stretch, walk. You can't. It's hard because a lot of people, it is their job. Like they're seated and they got to work. But also at the same time, if you're sitting there 9 to 5 all day, every day, you're just compressing your spine. Standing upright.
And they sit. It doesn't help when they're
Yep,
sitting,
which
like,
is a whole nother set of
yeah.
issues on the
100%.
neck, mostly, and the shoulders. But my three key pillars when people come in with low back pain, I think the primary emphasis goes towards strengthening the core to work to stabilize the spine.
100%.
Especially because most people have very underactive core muscles. And everybody thinks when they come in, like, core is your 6-pack abs. Like there's a common misconception surrounding that. And it's so much more than that. It's your glutes, it's your abdomen, it's your lats, right? So we try to get all those core or those large muscle groups engaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, usually due to the fact that they're sitting so much, their hips are extremely stiff, right? So my go-to, my bread and butter is like that banded hip mobilization.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we just want to get the hips mobilized. And you see me doing that with my clients all the time, right? So hip mobilization.
What is that exercise called again?
Banded hip mobilization. I stole it from Squat University.
There we go.
That
one. So if you want to look that up, that's I see use that one a lot.
Dr. Aaron Horschig from Squat University. Okay. And then there's also the Stuart Miguel Big 3.
Okay.
So I follow those too. But yeah, I mean, get the core active and engaged. That's going to take some of the tension off the spine immediately and work to stabilize it. Mobilize those hips. That way, if you're sitting all day and your hips are stiff, that's definitely not going to contribute to the well-being of the spine.
Absolutely.
And then lastly, it would be spinal decompression. So, I mean, spinal decompression kind of comes as a result of those two things, but there's also specific exercises and movements that I have my clients go through to decompress the spine.
Can you give me one of your favorites?
Ooh, there's so many.
Give me one.
Yeah. I think one of my favorites would be just like a dead hang.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
dead hang or even
feet up or hands? Upside down hang or
Oh, no. Just hanging.
Just hang. Just hang from a bar.
Just hang from the bar. Love that. Yeah, just hang from the bar.
So what I got from that was step number 1, if you're experiencing back pain or if you have a desk job, to either prevent or to aid in your low back pain, one of the most important things is let's prevent more from happening by moving more. So more steps.
Yep.
Number 2 would be strengthening your core.
Yep.
And I think number 3 would be allowing for more movement in these joints. So by working on mobility, flexibility, so your hips and your spine. So hanging, doing the hip mobilizations, I think that would be the best way to summarize that. Would you say that's pretty accurate?
It's pretty accurate.
Cool.
It's pretty spot on.
So kind of rewinding just a little bit back to kind of your physical therapy route, kind of what you see most commonly. So after you finish physical therapy, it sounds about 2 years, which was about 2 years of school as well, right?
Yeah.
So both those came to an end around the same time, it sounds like?
Yeah, because I was transferring over to Cal State Fullerton. And so that's where we kind of touch back, reconnect in life. And then, making the move from Simi Valley out to Orange County, ultimately, that prompted me to have to leave the job and go pursue other things in life.
Absolutely.
So, I was grateful for my time there, though. Like, seriously, it taught me a lot.
And you went from, living at home your whole life. You went from the experience of having a job to, okay, I'm going to move out. And I know firsthand from Simi Valley, both of us, we were very young kids playing soccer and tag on the streets growing up. And then coming to a new place, Orange County, living on your own, being on your own, learning how to survive on your own.
An experience I wouldn't trade for the world.
Chores, I mean, dude, it's like you like, I don't think people our age or younger even realize like it's a definitely quite the experience, but it's one of the most humbling things. Like going through it, it's like, damn, that was tough.
Yeah.
But after you're over it, you're like, man, I needed that. Yeah. Because it forces you to grow up really fast. And I know you experience a lot of like development in that time in terms of like coming into who you really want to be and who you are, and
Yep.
getting away from all of family, your background, your history, all of that, I think allowed you to really come out of your shell and become unique and an actual individual. And so that being said, like, what was the beginning stages, or what ultimately, what was your first couple months or year of school like? What did you think of it? And then what kind of brought you from that like transfer to Cal State Fullerton to like maybe contacting Tyler about training or that experience?
Yeah. So, I mean, you and I had always stayed in touch.
Absolutely.
Like we were in touch on social media, and I saw you down here doing your thing. And immediately when I moved down, I was like, oh, I got to stop by Self-Made and go see what's going on with Tyler, because he's got it going on. Like, I was always keeping up with your videos and watching everybody
Appreciate that.
train. And
Yeah.
I was like, damn, he's got a good thing going on here. It seems super dope. I love the energy and the impact that you're making. And so I remember I had just moved down and we had reconnected and we went to that fish spot over in Fullerton.
Yeah. The good
And
stuff.
so, and from there, having that conversation with you definitely, definitely intrigued me as to your line of work and, possibly getting involved. And
I remember.
it was cool. When I moved down initially from Simi Valley and moved to Fullerton,
Mhm.
going to state at Cal State Fullerton, where I did an additional year and a half of schooling. That was definitely a big transition, and it was good and bad. Like, there was some good high points and it was fun, and there was also some really low points that got dark. And so, but I feel like having that experience is something that I genuinely wouldn't trade for the world. Like, I had to move out and go be out of the house to begin to discover who I am as an individual and what kind of person I want to be navigating this world. Right.
Mhm.
And so for me, once I was able to start to get in touch with you and start to mentor underneath you, and shadow you while you were working, I was like, damn, this is such a cool job. And it was right in line with it's very similar to what I was doing back at body mechanics at the physical therapy office, right?
Yep.
Except now I had this ability to do it in my own way, where somebody comes in with a set of issues, instead of going and having and training them underneath the physical therapist guidelines and their exercises, I now had this freedom to pick and choose what do I think is going to be best for people based on my knowledge through schooling, my experience through work, and furthering my education. Right. So it's cool having that ability and that freedom to decide what we think is best for our clients based on where they're at. That gave me that freedom. Yeah.
You become Picasso.
Yeah.
And I love that, because before, when you were in the physical therapy office, it was like, because you were an assistant, you weren't a physical therapist.
No.
You're not a physical therapist.
I'm not a physical therapist.
We're not doctors. But what we do is we combine our experience, education, and practices and repeated. When you tend to get repeated good results with people, you tend to repeat those actions. And so you took a lot of the things that you learned from there, and you were able to paint your own canvas, right? Now you had a blank canvas and you had someone coming in, and it wasn't just, here's how to rehab. It was like, oh man, I can give you advice on your nutrition. I can tell you like, hey, we should try to work on eating more protein. And in combination, you get to hear more about their lifestyles and the things they do outside of the gym that ultimately are contributing to their pain or their discomforts. And what's my favorite part, and I think that you enjoy this as well, is that we get such a diversity of clients.
Yeah, that's
we
like
don't
probably
have
my favorite
the
part.
Same thing over and over again, where it's like, I gotta repair this, gotta repair this, gotta repair this. It's like, oh, this person's like pretty healthy and they just want to take it to the next level. Great.
Yeah.
This person has never touched a weight in their life. Awesome.
I love the diversity.
Yeah.
I've worked with so many different types of people, and I think that's where I probably love this job the most, is how many different walks of life that we get to work with. And I look at my job as, like, I think when people hear the word personal trainer, they just think of somebody that's going to put them through a workout for an hour and then send them home sore as shit. Like somebody that's just going to bully them. And I feel like that's such a common misconception surrounding our job. because
Thank
the
you.
job that we do for people, I know that, me, you, Coach Nate, like we all are in the business of helping people make healthy, sustainable lifestyle changes.
Yeah.
Right. And just meeting people where they're at. Right. And so for some people coming in, that looks like rehab. For some people coming in, that looks like just getting back into moving their body because they've been inactive for so long. And
Absolutely.
for some people, it looks like making some really significant dietary changes. And then for some people, it's all of the above. Right. So I think, more than anything, we're in the business of genuinely helping people with like building healthy, sustainable habits. And there's so much that we can help people with based on our knowledge.
And man, I appreciate you saying that, number one, because that's truly the environment and the methodology. That's the mission of TNTs, to change people's lives and to ultimately and people think I'm crazy when I say this, but like our goal is not to work with our clients forever. My goal and our goal as a team, as a unit, as a philosophy, TNT, our goal is to work with you for a short period of time. Whether that's short can mean 6 months, a couple months, it could mean a couple years.
Yeah.
But and you look at the lifespan of someone, that's a fraction of their time on this planet. But ultimately, our goal is to work with you, teach you everything you need to know so you can go off on your own. We want you to go off on your own and actually keep going. Funny thing, I called a client that I haven't talked to in probably like 5 or 6 years from when I first started, and just checked in on her. I said, how's everything going? Like, still working out 3 days a week? Yes. I'm still eating my protein? Yes. So those things, when those stick, man, like dope. I always just tell people, like, how I want to gauge my success as a coach is not based off your results, your before and after picture. Like, sure, those are cool, and those are cool to show your friends, and I'm sure, your friends are jealous of it. But ultimately, what's more important to me as a coach is, like, I want to be able to call you 5, 10, 15, 20 years from now
and see you're still doing it.
And hear that you're still doing the core principles. I'm getting my steps in. I'm drinking water. I'm sleeping good. I'm working out 2 to 3 days a week.
Protein intake.
It's the big rocks. Yeah. It's the big pillars. And like, ultimately, if people can do those things for a long period of time, they will feel the best. They will look the best. They'll perform their best in their everyday lives. And that's the mission we're on. And so thank you again for saying that. It means a lot to me. So ultimately, when I come back to this process of you going from, what's cool is that I remember, like, when you started at the gym, it was like, okay, Jake, funny thing, and hopefully you're cool with me sharing this, but I remember when you came in, I had a call with Jake and his dad, and it was like, I had to sell both of them on, like, Jake was really passionate. Jake, when he thinks about his passion, nothing else matters. It's like, he's very laser focused. And his dad was like, well, how much does it cost? And I was like, I'm not cheap, man. But I remember his dad, also your dad was great and very graceful in giving you the opportunity, giving me the opportunity to mentor you. And he allowed us to kind of get this journey started. And I remember the first like 6 months or so, we just started like, me training you, and then you'd come in on your off hours of not training and watch me train clients. And I think that was an awesome experience, and I wish more coaches would do that, because man, the stuff we see, we've seen a lot of stuff in the gym, and
definitely,
man, some of it irks me. And going to normal gyms, seeing other trainers, and even at our own facility, but at the end of the day, you got great experience, you got to learn. I don't know how or why, but I think you're a visual learner and an auditory learner, because when you were watching, dude, you were like a sponge. I remember you would watch for like a day or two and you'd be like, oh God, let me go teach someone how to do this, and right away was able to pick it up. And that's not something you can teach to people.
I learned through application. So when I'm learning something, I have to go and apply it, or else I don't retain it very well. Definitely a big shout out to my dad. I remember back when I was 20.
Shout out Ted.
I was 20 years old when I started under you, and had just moved down. Was super broke because I blew through all my savings like the first couple months.
Sorry for the interruption. Really quick, if you've made it this far and you haven't liked or subscribed to the channel or platform, whatever you're listening on, you need to do that right now. And I also want to say thank you so much for being here. On top of that, the worst thing happened during this interview. My camera stopped recording. I don't know why. This is a rookie mistake, and I want to apologize right now because the audio quality is about to drop tremendously. But the information and the value is the same. It's going to be absolutely amazing. There's a ton of great things said after this portion of the interview. So moving forward, the audio quality will be bad, but the information and quality of what we're giving you is fantastic. So if you can, stay tuned. Stay listening. It would mean the world to me. Enjoy. Shout out Ted.
I was 20 years old when I started under you, and had just moved down. I was super broke because I blew through all my savings like the first couple months being there. And I was like, hey Dad, like, it's a really good opportunity. It's also a little bit of an investment. You know, life now has become so much more beautiful because of that investment, and I was happy to pay that money back. And man, like, I'm genuinely and forever grateful for you and for what you've been able to do for me in my life. And like I said, having the experience and coming in and mentoring under you, starting my career, helping the people that I've helped, making the impact that I've made and will continue to make. I don't think I'd trade it for the world, man. It's amazing.
Give me the chills, man.
It's amazing.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah. Seriously, genuinely. And so, you know, now that we're in the thick of it, right? It's been 2 years now. You've been getting more experience training people. You're a coach that I can trust with giving any client of mine while I'm on vacation, or a client comes in, they're like, oh, Jake's my guy, you know? And so this next step on your journey, right? We're getting to a point where we're growing the online side of things. So not only are we getting online clients, we got a good mixture of online and in person. And what's beautiful, like you said, you have more experience now, you have more confidence as a coach. Because I remember early on, you were like, man, I don't know. And I was like, Jake, you can. And I think more than anything, it wasn't the lack of skills, it wasn't the lack of anything, it was the lack of belief in yourself.
Absolutely.
And I think I've seen that flower blossom in a sense where you're like, I know I could throw anyone at you. You're like, I got
it. Yeah.
So one thing I would love for you to share, because I think it's so unique about you.
Absolutely.
And one of the things I would love to hear you share more about is like some of the without sharing client names, obviously, so we keep it private, but more importantly, like, I would love to hear about some of the types of people, some of the challenges of clients that you've had to deal with, the more challenging clients, but also like how rewarding it's been, and like some of the cool things that you've been able to do on that journey. So
there's so many, and you know, obviously working in the same space, you see all the different types of clientele that I have. Amazing. I have people come in, like I've had a lot of people come in for rehab. I've worked with disabled people. I've worked with athletes, Gen Pop. So I mean, there's just so many different walks of life that I've had the opportunity to work with, and I'm so grateful for that. I think, one of the biggest success stories that I've had, I have a client, and she'll know who this is when she listens. She came in post lower back surgery.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember.
And that was like a very significant surgery.
Absolutely.
They operated on her spine. So I remember one of the trainers came up to me, and she was like, hey, like, I have this referral for you. She just had low back surgery. And so I was like, whoa, like that's intense. That's exactly the word I would use. That's intense. And that's high risk. And that's very high risk for our job.
High reward.
High risk, high reward, but extremely high risk, especially when you haven't worked with somebody with that severe of a case. And so in my mind, I was like, okay, let's do this. Like,
I got this.
So we brought her in, and we started her kind of underneath those 3 pillars that I gave you earlier, right? Strengthen the core, mobilize the hips, decompress the spine. And so immediately off the back, we were able to find some success with getting out of pain, right? And so she had just came from physical therapy. So she was rehabbed, but not strong, we needed to get her back to being strong, being pain-free, and being comfortable in her own.
Yeah. So when she came in, just to kind of elaborate a little bit, like when she came in, what was the main thing she was experiencing? What was her mobility like, her strength like, and then when you finished, or where she is now, like what is that transformation been?
Crazy transformation. When she first came in, her biggest intolerance was flexion intolerance, so just like forward bending, for people that might not know what, just like bending over to pick something up. And so
it caused pain.
Yeah, and she had a flexion intolerance, and it was pretty severe. And she also had some sciatic pain, so she was having pain basically from her lower back running down through her leg, which I've dealt with myself and experienced myself, and it can be very debilitating. Low back pain, for people who have never experienced it before, it can be extremely debilitating. It is the type of pain that makes you question a lot of things. You're like, oh my God, like, can I bend over to pick this up, or am I gonna throw my back out, or it's just getting up, laying down. Everything is painful when you're dealing with severe low back pain. And so we got her training. And so one of the first things that I did, and I think this might be a little controversial, is I had her deadlift. And the reason why I had her deadlift is not so we could throw on like 8 plates on the bar and start ripping 405 off the ground. It's not. I'm not trying to breed a power lifter. I'm just trying to teach her the mechanics of, let's teach you how to pick something up and put it down correctly with good form, because that is one of the biggest triggers. Is people will go to pick something up like a box when they're moving, or for her, she has a kid. At the time the kid was young, so she's picking the kid up and transferring the kid, and then putting the kid back down into the crib. And so if you're going through and you're doing that multiple times a day and you're doing that incorrectly, you are just going to be loading your spine as opposed to loading the musculature. And if you're her, that's extremely dangerous, because you just had surgery on your spine. So there's no room for that. There's no, so one of the first things I taught her was, all right, let me teach you how to pick things up and put them down incorrectly. Let's teach your body how to move as one unit, as opposed to your spine just moving the load.
And that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I think that's exactly why I wanted you to dive deeper into this, because most people, when they think of pain, or they have pain, or they're experiencing this discomfort or these ailments in their life, instead of what they should do, what they're doing is they're going home and listening to maybe other people's opinions, or doctors are saying like, oh, just rest.
Yeah.
And
all too common.
And it, honestly, like, it bothers me,
rest, because here's a painkiller, and they're just treating symptoms, not the root cause. And by and large, the root cause is usually the mechanics. Like,
how you
repeatedly going through bad mechanics, just with day-to-day things. It doesn't have to be in the weight room, it's just in life. Like, you gotta know, if you're her, you gotta know how to pick something up and put it down correctly, or else you're gonna put yourself at a high risk for re-injuring yourself, right?
Absolutely.
And so, like I said, as controversial as it may be, I had her start deadlifting from day one.
And
we started extremely light. We started with a kettlebell that was elevated on a platform. Like, so she didn't have to have this great mobility to go down and get it, right? We just needed to teach the body how to move in one fluid chain.
She was probably hinging enough to reach over to grab something off like a desk.
Yes, literally.
Like, just enough.
Very, very little mobility required.
And what was like the weight? Was it like a 16 kilograms?
Dude, it was probably lighter than that.
An 8 kilograms?
It was probably
4 kilograms?
It was like, the colorful kettlebells that we have at the gym.
Oh, the colored ones.
The colored ones that are like hollowed out, but they're large.
Was it the gray one?
It was like the pink one. Oh,
okay.
It was like the gray or the pink. I don't remember. It's been like it was like a year and a half ago. But
that's literally like 15 to 20 pounds.
Yeah, it was light. It was light, and I was like, you know what? Let's just pretend this is the weight of the child, right? That's the most practical application. Is let's just pretend you're picking up the child, right? Yeah. So we went through, and I taught her the mechanics, and so like off the jump, it was like, let's teach you the mechanics on top of getting the core engaged, decompressing the spine, mobilizing the hips, all that good stuff, right? So, training her, we trained together for a solid, I think it was like a year and a half. She just recently kind of went off and started doing her own thing, but we're still in touch, and I check in with her. But yeah, she, dude, like, by and large, since starting training, has been pain-free. and is super strong. Like by the time she was getting out of there, we had her on the trap bar deadlifting like, I think it was like 115 pounds for sets of 10.
Damn.
And she's like this 5 foot tall, like she's not like, you know what I mean?
She's like 5'1", 5'2".
She's like 5'2". She's like short, but she's jacked now. Like she's got strong legs, extremely strong glutes, right? Strong abdomen as well. Yeah. And so that was probably my biggest success story, just given the severity of the case, and then being able to help her to get back to life pain-free and strong as shit relative to her size.
And dude, like that's absolutely amazing. I think as a client, like those things to her were forever amazing to her, I'm sure, because it was transformative in her own life, where she's able to pick up her child now without having to worry about her back being thrown out. She can probably do her, just the day-to-day activities are now easier for her. But most importantly for us as coaches, like the most rewarding thing is seeing that change and seeing like, man, I had a girl come into me, she could only barely pick up a 20-pound kettlebell, and now 120 pounds on a bar
for sets of 10 bar. For sets of like 10 to 12. Like, that's dude, insane. We never even got close to 1 rep, one rep maxing her, because I didn't want to play with those lower rep ranges too much. Like, there's just no point.
That's like a 500% increase, which
it's nuts.
If I could increase my if I get 100 pounds to any lift, I would I would quit, because that'd be awesome. I'd be too good. But dang, dude, that's amazing. And that goes to show your skills as a coach.
And so simultaneously though, life happens, right? And there's going to be a time, and there was a time in which she was experiencing a little bit of pain, which I presume happened outside of the gym, because when she's training with me, like it's safe. I'm making sure I'm watching everything, making sure it's safe. Now, I'm not perfect, and sometimes people move weird and I don't catch it, and it happens. Like, it's happened before, and it's probably happened with you too. We're not perfect, right? But the cool thing is that when she would experience a flare-up, or when she was dealing with some type of residual pain or inflammation, whatever it may be, whatever was going on, we had methods that she could use by herself without me there to get her out of pain. And so to this day, like, she still stays on top of those. And I took the time to give her like a full sheet of homework and take her through all the homework while she was with me. And so she has a really good idea of what she can do
when it comes again.
Yeah, and I have multiple people like that. I'm sure you do too, where like we show them what they can do without us being there, or without even being in a gym for that matter. Just something they can do with their body weight to get out of pain.
Always going above and beyond, man.
Right? That's what we do.
100%.
That's how we make the impact.
100%.
Yeah.
And number one, thank you for sharing. That was inspiring. That's absolutely inspiring. And it's cool because, seeing these journeys, seeing these people, and like from the outsider's perspective of like, I don't work with her directly, but I even saw over time her in the gym, like her happiness, her confidence completely turning over.
Quality of life,
and there's some other clients too, like I know Jake, actually, he came to me and I was like, I knew that the person he needed to work with, he actually had a stroke, and he was very debilitated from on one whole side of his body. He's barely able to walk comfortably, and doing anything was painful and really hard, shaky. And so when Jake started with him, I remember him, like, Jake would literally put a belt on him and hold him and help him step onto a 3 or 4 inch tall box. I was like, man, this guy can barely walk up a curb. And I don't think people realize, but like, you should be grateful for your abilities to do that. And this man, over time, like, he started doing this stuff on his own. Jake was just standing there just in case, but he started doing step ups and doing like farmer's carries, holding dumbbells. I was like, dude, this is amazing to see. And then Jake also has another client that I have to mention, which is she's in a wheelchair.
Still with me to this day.
Yeah,
it's been like a year and a half.
She's in a wheelchair, and it is the most inspiring thing to see what you've done with her, because I remember when she came in, she was very quiet, very weak in a nice way. She had tons of potential though. And I know one of the things that I've seen you post about that I think is so cool to hear and to see is like, I remember you had her like drag this rope. You had a kettlebell at the end, you had her drag the rope, and then you started tying
We started without the kettlebell. Yeah, we just started with the rope.
Yeah.
And so, like, I'll take this battle rope and I'll walk it across the turf at the gym. And the turf is what, probably like 20 yards?
25.
Yeah, 25 yards. I'll walk it across the turf and then I'll leave it at the end. And then I'll go to one end with her and I'll hold the rope. And then she'll be seated pulling the rope, right? So when we first started, it was like a 5-minute pull to get it across the turf with no added weight. Just the weight of the rope. 5 minutes.
Wow.
I would say about, well, if we're talking today's time, which is about a year and a half later,
okay,
she's currently pulling that rope across the turf in 1 minute. She got down from 5 minutes to actually sub 1 minute. The last time we timed it was about 55 seconds.
Insane.
Nuts.
And you have weight on it
down,
now. And you have weight
on
it.
Yeah, well, no, without the weight, she pulls it like at 55 seconds.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that's like our PRs. We go for like time to see how fast we can pull it.
So
but to training to pull it that fast, we started tying a kettlebell on like a 32 pound, or it's like a 16 kg, so like almost 32 pounds or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll tie it on and we'll just pull it across. It's a slow burn, but it's gotten her to the point where when we strip the kettlebell off, she's freaking flying, dude. It's nuts.
So
she's also dropped down, I want to say, I think it's about 30 pounds, 40 pounds, I don't know, something
I didn't
like
even
that.
know
Yeah, she's
that.
lost a lot of weight.
Dude.
Yeah, she's lost a lot of weight.
That's
Just from moving her body,
Yeah.
And then I think, obviously the physical stuff is great. Like getting stronger and losing weight. But more importantly, in my opinion, we've built a beautiful relationship as people. And like we're just always shooting the shit, having a good time, laughing.
I see you guys laughing.
It's just an awesome hour because we're just having a good time.
Yeah.
And I guess to that point too is the exercise, is so conducive to the mental health, right? And bettering the mental health. Like, so for her, I think she's a prime example of a client and my lower back client who we talked about earlier. I think both came in a position where the mental health was not as good due to where their body was at versus nowadays, in today's time frame, being stronger, more pain free. And I think the mental health aspect is often overlooked as well.
100%. Man. And that's what I really wanted to highlight overall, is that like it's not like us as trainers, our goal is not, most often it's not even at all our goal, unless it's specifically asked for the client, but it's less about the weight loss. It's less about the muscle gain. It's more about the internal confidence. And when the clients start looking in the mirror and smiling, they start having open conversations, like they start to make friends with other trainers and other people in the gym,
other people's clients,
like
it's dope. It's awesome.
Like your client we were just talking about in the wheelchair, like I remember when she first came in, very shy, timid, and I would talk to her a little bit and she was just like, be quiet. Now she'll be like, sup, like just straight gangster rolling in, just like what, like
we're just shooting the shit.
Yeah,
it's awesome. It's a good time.
She's got some funny jokes.
Yeah,
too.
she's hilarious. She knows who she is listening to this. Yeah, she's funny.
She's giving me a hard time a few times. She's great.
Trust me too.
And like the only reason I wanted to single out a couple of those people, because those ones really stood out to me. But I mean, all of your clients, I see. One specifically who's named after a mushroom. He
came in this morning.
Yeah, he's great too, man. I feel like I've seen him come out of the shell. Like, it's funny.
Absolutely.
My favorite part is like when he first came in, so quiet, like wouldn't talk to anyone, very like closed off.
Yeah.
Now I hear him, like when I'm around. I don't know if he does it only when I'm around, but he throws jabs at you. Like he'll like throw jokes and like, dude,
loves
he's
my
he
tattoos.
hates your tattoos. He comes out of his shell, man, and that's my favorite part, man. It's like, being a coach, we build these deep relationships with our clients.
That's what it's all about.
Like our friendships. And that's one thing that I think is the coolest part about being a coach, is building these like ideally lifelong connections with humans, and that are like great humans that we meet, and the diversity. You have people from all walks of life, from all areas of the world, even.
So that's the difference in where I'm at in my career now, at like 2 years in, versus where I was at when I first started. When I first started, like it was hard to see it that way because I was so focused on like, okay, I gotta get them like results. Fat loss, I gotta get them muscle gain, I gotta get them results. Whereas like nowadays, don't get me wrong, it's still about that. Like we deliver on that, but 100%. That comes as a byproduct of building healthy lifestyle habits, right? And so I think both of us, and I don't want to talk on other trainers. I've seen trainers, and I don't think all trainers are like us in that regard. Equal. I don't think they're like us in that regard. But I think from a standpoint of what we want to help people achieve when they come in, I think we all are, us as a team, we want to see people be the best version of themselves mentally, physically, and spiritually. And we try to help in any and all ways that we know how to. And I think for us, that also looks like embodying it too, right? Like we make conscious, healthy lifestyle decisions. And I feel like that's why people gravitate towards us to help them make those decisions as well, right? Like what types of movement would be best for them, how to go through those movements, specific dietary advice, hormonal advice, whatever it may be, like without, 100%. Lifestyle advice.
I think to close that loop, I think one of my favorite things to explain to past, future, current clients is like, so many people come in with the focus of, I just need to lose this weight. I just want to lose this weight. Or I just need to get more jacked and so I can be happier. And it's like, exactly.
What's driving it?
At the end of the day, one of the things I see time and time again, the minute you take your focus off of the goal and they shift towards the experience, the journey, they start focusing on, okay, I'm just going to get really good at walking and getting my 8 to 10,000 steps every day. Or I'm just going to get really good at making meals at home more often. Or I'm going to get really good at not sitting at my desk all day, and I'm going to get up every hour and go walk for a couple minutes around my office. Those things, when they start shifting their focus to those things, what happens?
That's when the results start coming.
Every freaking time, man. That's when the scale starts dropping. That's when the muscles start showing. That's when the progress pictures, they look at them, they're like, oh my, I didn't realize. I lost 3 inches of my waist. When? Exactly, because you weren't focused on it. So that being said, Jake, I think ultimately going into coaching, it seems like it was a calling for you. It seems natural. And I'd love to see how far you've come.
It's funny. I always say this because it's the truth. I didn't choose this path. This path just like it chose me. Like, funny story. I was enrolling for college, and my neighbor across the street was helping me to enroll because he was at Moore Park College, and he just had like experience with going through and selecting classes, and like he just knew how to operate the system. And he's like, "What do you want to major in?" I was like, "I don't know." Business? So everybody goes business route when they're undecided. And he's like, you should do kinesiology. And I was like, what's that? I didn't even know. I was like 18, just fresh out of high school, young and dumb and doing dumb things. And so that path chose me. Like he clicked kinesiology, not me. My dad comes home, hey, they need work. They need employees to work at this PT office. You'll get the job if you go. I had no experience. I had no business being there. Dude, I was reading through medical charts. I had no knowledge of anatomy whatsoever. It took them months, 2 months, 3 months to get me up to speed just to read the charts. I had no experience. And then obviously, you and I, we go way back. We've known each other since like basically before I had memory of life. So I run into you out here. Hey, come mentor under me, and this is a awesome avenue for a career. Like, I don't know. I got to think about it. And I go in and do it. I'm like, this is dope. All of it. When I look back and I reflect, that's why I feel like I'm always feeling like I'm doing the right thing, is because I didn't have to. It found me.
Naturally.
All of it found me, and I couldn't be more grateful. I couldn't be more thankful to God, because I think the most important thing when we leave this earth is the impact that we've left while we were
100%.
here. I don't think I would be as fulfilled or happy sitting in a desk job cubicle setting. Maybe making more money doing that or something. I don't know, but I don't think I would be as happy. You know what I mean? Whereas like when I first started the career, it was slow. It was picking up, and now it's picking up a little bit more just because I've had time to build a network being out here. I didn't know anybody out here when I started, so it was slow. It was a slow start. But yeah, now we're to that point where it's starting to pick up, and I'm super grateful, man. Like, I wouldn't trade that experience for anything.
100%, man.
Yeah.
I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, there's a couple things there that came up, but I'm like, I will hold these off because I know we're going to do some more podcasts in the future, but I want to know what's next for Jake. What's coming next? I know you went through this whole journey, the first 2 years of building your business. It's scary as all hell.
Oh yeah, terrifying.
And it's really starting to get some momentum in terms of in-person, the online as well. So I want to know, like, what do you see in the next couple of years? Like, what growth do you want to see? What kind of education, what topics are you delving into more now? Like, what things are really fascinating Jake? And what are the next, few years looking like in terms of like coaching and life?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's a very good question. There's just so many things that run through my mind because I love learning. I'm a learner, right? I like the idea of having any and everybody being able to step into the gym looking for something, and I could help them with that, right?
100%.
So, I want to continue to further my education with rehab. I want to continue to further my education with diet, nutrition, hormone imbalances, how to correct them. As you know, people out there might not know, I'm also a part-time mixed martial artist. I do jiu-jitsu and Muay Thai, a little bit of boxing as well. So
that's what I was looking for.
For me, I mean, that's huge in my life. That's something that I've found that has genuinely transformed me as a human, made me a much more peaceful person. I encourage everybody to go through and do that because you learn a lot about yourself in the process. But for people that are coming in maybe looking for that as well, like learning how to just some basics as far as like, hey, I want to be able to defend myself and any and all situations. Be like, okay, cool. Let's go through some jiu-jitsu. Okay, cool. Let's go through some striking. But I'm very new in that, right? I've been doing it for about 1.5 years now. So I see myself just continuing to build and develop that skill set, and then also being able to
offer that
to others.
Dude, yes.
And I would also like to get involved with massage therapy at some point. So I just want to be like an all-encompassing, like, hey, if you're looking for training, I can do that. Hey, if you're looking for rehab, I can do that. Hey, if you're looking for martial arts, I can do that. Massage therapy, I can do that. Just from years, like I'm talking like a decade of experience, not just like, oh, I went through and did this for like 2 days. Like, no, I want to build it.
I took an online course and it took us $10.
Certification $10.
Dude, that bothers me, bro.
Oh yeah.
Can I talk about that for a second?
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Oh, just because you have a certification does not mean you know anything. And just because you've worked with a couple people,
see it all the time.
I mean,
it's sad.
I don't want to do too much on that. I just want to say, at the end of the day, when you meet a coach or you meet a client or you meet a coach or someone that's been a trainer, whatever they qualify themselves as or call themselves, really, if you ever look to hire a coach, just know like what you look for is not the education on the sheet of paper. It has nothing to do with their degrees, their certifications. It has everything to do with who they are as a human. Is that someone you can deal with for hours and hours on end? I think one of the things that a lot of people
100%.
don't actually think about is like some of my closest friends now are my clients.
Yeah, dude. We spend a lot of time with them.
Think about it. Like I have a client comes to me 1 hour, 3 days a week for the past 3 years.
It's minimum of 3 hours.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes they're hanging out longer too. Most of the week.
The hours I spend with my clients are typically more than sometimes what they spend with their families, their friends, the people that they love in their lives. Like,
well, and for us, it's like that too. Like, we're spending
more time with them.
I've built beautiful relationships with a lot of my clients.
And they're like I know some things about my clients their friends don't even know about them, and it's like
It's crazy.
it's great because that's what creates deep, lasting, like great humans. I honestly am so thankful to work with some of the best humans. But ultimately, I think when you look for a coach, I think what you should look for is they're genuine wanting to help you. They're genuinely care about you, your health, and it's not just like, oh, I'll get you the fat loss, or oh, I'll get you the muscle gain. It's like, no. Like, there's a lot of other stuff going on in your lifestyle. There's a lot of other things that we want to help with, and I think when you take that all-encompassing approach, it really is in alignment with what this is, what TNT stands for, and why I wanted to start podcasting, why I wanted to start YouTube and doing more long-form content is so we can really put this out there and share with other people, like, what is right, what is wrong, but also like speak from our experiences of like how we've been able to help people. And I think you're an absolute asset to the team.
Thank you.
I think it's been an absolute pleasure to work with you. I'm so excited to see where this goes. And
I'm as well.
I'm definitely excited to see what other things we're going to be bringing to the team, what other avenues we're going to be going down to bring to our clients to bring in more value. And I'm just extremely excited for the future, what's to come.
1000%.
And just want to say thank you again for taking the time to do this podcast with me, brother.
Thank you.